Now we're going to look at a more challenging trigonometric equation problem. So what happens if you have multiple solutions or if you have something inside the trig function that's not just theta or x? So our helpful hints are going to remain the same. Get the trigonometric function by itself, use inverse trig, think about which equations to set up, which quadrants do we have to be in, and then we're going to make sure we answer the question. The output voltage E of a circuit after t seconds is given by the equation E equals 12 sine of 2 pi t. To the nearest hundredth of a second, what are the times within the first 2 seconds that E equals 9? So now I'm not told whether we're in the first quadrant or the second quadrant or the third quadrant or the fourth quadrant or how many rotations I can have. I have to solve for t and find all the answers where t is between 0 and 2 seconds. Now the first few steps are going to look very similar to everything we've done so far. I set up the equation and I fill in my unknowns. It tells me E equals 9. Please make sure you're in radian mode. And I have the equation 9 equals 12 sine 2 pi t. I do the algebra step of divide both sides by 12 to get the sine of 2 pi t by itself, isolate the trigonometric expression, take the inverse to get 2 pi t by itself. So I have the inverse sine of 9 over 12. That's not on my unit circle. It's not a special right triangle, so I have to use my calculator. And I have to remember since 2 pi t is going to be positive, I need to be looking at all angles in the first quadrant and the second quadrant, because that's where sine is positive. So the two equations I set up, inverse sine of 9 over 12 is 0.848. So that would give me my first quadrant. And to find the second quadrant, I need to use the 0.848 radians as a reference angle and go to pi and subtract 0.848 to go up into the second quadrant. So here are two equations I've set up. One for the first quadrant and one for the second quadrant. Now, since it doesn't tell me that I can or cannot rotate and go an additional 2 pi, I have to set up some more equations. So the top two equations are if I'm in just the first quadrant or the second quadrant between 0 and 2 pi. Now I can add 2 pi as many times as I want. So I took 0.848 and added 2 pi to do one full spin, and I'm still at the same sine value. Or I can spin twice. 2 full revolutions is 4 pi. Same thing with the quadrant 2 angles. I can add 2 pi to spin once. I can add 2 pi to spin a second time. So now in this case, I have a bunch of equations I have to solve. And the question asks, what are all of the times within the first 2 seconds? So I have to find every solution that is less than 2 seconds. Now to solve for t in each equation, I'm going to take and divide both sides by 2 pi in all 6 of these equations. And I'm going to get 6 results. Now the question asks within the first 2 seconds, and as you can see, the first 4 results are all within 2 seconds. So those are the first 4 times that the volts are exactly 9. So in this case, I have 4 solutions. And that's how you solve by setting up multiple equations and making sure you answer it with every answer, even if it doesn't tell you how many answers there are going to be.